Silver.
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 All right. This is September the 4th, 2001. Don't do this, okay? Okay, this is Mom and Kristen, and they're going to have a little chat about family history and good old days. Kristen, what is the first question you'd like to ask?
Well, I would like to ask Grandma the question about the time when Granny Parrish gave her big butt whooping. The one you tell Sarah all the time.
Oh, that Miss Saxon? It's the only time I ever talked back to my mom. I was about 9 years old, and I come in from school, and she said, come in here and do these dishes. And I said, I'm not doing dishes today. I'm tired of doing dishes, and I'm not going to do any more dishes. I'm going out and play. And she didn't say a word. She just went out. She cut a great big long keen switch that wouldn't break hardly. It was key. And she took me by the hand. She said, don't you ever, 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 ever tell me what you're not going to do, young lady. And she flew in on me, and when she got through, she had a little stick about this long in her hand. She wore it out on me. And from that day till the day she died, I never did size her again.
I wouldn't either.
When she told me to do something, I did it right quick. And I didn't talk back anymore.
Alright, thank you. Now, next, tell me about the time. There's so many good stories. Let's see.
How about asking Grandma to tell a little bit about her family tree, where it all started?
Good idea.
Oh, we're starting up in there.
We'll tell about who Papa's parents were and the deal there,
Yeah.
and his grandparents, and where the home place is. I'm gonna leave it on you. Okay, to start with his mom.
My dad's mom's name was Elizabeth. Elizabeth May.
That's pretty.
And I saw her one time when I was 10 years old, 1940. And we went to her sister's, and she was living with her sister, Olivia. And my dad was born out of wedlock, and I don't know who his father was, but when he was born, and Alice said that he was put in an orphanage when he was born. And then
How old was he when he was put in
he
the
was just a
orphanage?
baby. I don't know how many months old he was or anything, but she took him up there to Louisville and put him in an orphanage. And she left him until he was 2. And then when he was 2, she went up and got him and brought him home. And she told him that he was adopted. But in 1940, Aunt Olivia told my mother that he was Elizabeth's very own son. Because she was her sister and she knew. And she said that he was told by her sister that he was adopted, but he was not adopted. He was her very own son. And
Tell about the guy that came and shook his hand.
she said, Daddy said, he told me there was a man one time came to their home. He was raised in a big old 11-room home place. His grandfather and grandmother owned the place, and they lived there with them. And this man came one time and brought him a little tricycle. And said he took his hand and he squeezed his hand so hard that he cried. tears rolled down his cheeks. And they said, why did you squeeze his hand like that? He said, so he could remember me. And Daddy said he never did forget him. And he asked them who he was. And they said he's a man from the orphans' home. But I think it was his dad.
And what was his name?
They didn't say.
They didn't say what his name was, but the two other names that might have been given were
Johns or Johnson. And her second husband was Devlin Johns. Her second husband. Her first husband's name was Benjamin Coleman, and he was the son of a doctor from Sulphur Wells, Kentucky.
yeah. Okay, tell me about Pop's
His grandmother's name was Fleming, and his grandmother's name was Mary Duke, the daughter of George Duke. Cave City has a street named after Duke, the Dukes. The Paula lives on. Paula lives on Duke Street in Sarah. And their son's name was George Washington Parrish. And he married a woman named Martha Richardson, and they called her Maddie. Her nickname. And her name was Martha.
Who was this?
Daddy's grandfather and grandmother.
Okay.
And they lived in this great big house. It's a big old home place. I saw the picture of it. It burned down before I was born. But I saw the picture of it, and it was a great big two-story house. Great big. Had 11 rooms in it. And that's where George Washington Parrish died. In that home. In an upstairs bedroom in London. He died in 1914.
Long time ago.
He died in 1914. And I guess it's where his wife died too, but I don't know. Daddy left home before she died, so I don't know what year she died. I never have found her tombstone.
Tell about the will that George left.
He left a will. He had,
I will whip you next time I warn you. You will be whipped.
he had 4 children that lived to be grown. And he had named all of them in his will. And he had a little grandson named Oscar Lee.
Katie.
He left him $1.
You too.
And he said that's all he wanted his grandson to have was $1 of his money.
Was that a lot back then?
And the little boy died before the grandpa did. He died, he made the will out the 10th day of September, and the little boy died the 15th of September. 5 days later, he
Did he
died.
ever use his dollar?
No, he died before he got it. Because he didn't get it. He died. Was a little boy.
What else?
Oh, the next question. Hello. Hello. Okay, I love this story. The first time I heard it, I laughed so hard. But I want Grandma to tell me about Carl and when he was playing with the grasshoppers.
Oh, I've never heard this story.
He was Mama's brother, Carl was. His real name wasn't Carl. His mother named him Hezekiah out of the Bible. And he didn't like that name, so he changed it himself. He called himself Carl.
Name Granny's brothers, all of her family. Her mom's name and her dad's name.
She had, there was 8 of those kids, but 4 lived, 4 died. And Mama was the oldest. She was born in 1903. And Carl was next, and then Markham and Robert. And then she had 4 little brothers and sisters that died when they were real small. Some of them was babies. One of them's name was Cleone. That was her sister. And she had a sister named Alice May, and she died. And then she had a little brother named, what was his name? James Rubin, I believe. That was Granddad's father's name, James Rubin. And I think the little boy was named after Rubin. I mean, Rubin was named after his grandfather. And then there was another little boy, and I can't remember what his name was. Mama told me, but I can't never remember anymore, and all of us dead now, and I don't know his name. I can't remember what his name was. But there was 2 boys and 2 girls that died.
Do you know which ones were like born and which ones weren't just miscarriage, or were they all born?
It was all boys. One little boy was big enough to walk around and talk when he died. I can't remember his name.
Granny have any sisters?
She had 2, Alice May and Cleone.
And they both died as babies.
So she had to be raised with Carl.
Tell
Yeah,
about,
and Carl was next to her, and Granddad was a market gardener, and he raised all kinds of vegetables. And he would pick them he'd pick them one day, and the next morning about 4 o'clock he would load his wagon up and take it into Bowling Green and sell it to all the grocery stores and all of the hotels in Bowling Green, because they cook for their people, you know, that stay at the hotels. And Carl, he wouldn't work, he would play. He would pull the legs off of grasshoppers, and he would play with crickets. He would see, he'd pull his leg off and see if he could still hop. And he'd stop them from singing. When the crickets were singing, he'd pull their legs off, and they would stop singing. And Mama couldn't get him to work. And she would be trying to pick a big bushel basket full of beans, you know, so they'd take it off. And he wouldn't help her. So but she was the oldest, and they expected her to make him do.
Do your impression of Carl, you know, when he's saying, let's see how far you get now. I love that. That's so funny.
Let's see if he can still hop. Let's pull this wing off and see how far he can go. Mama said, get over here and pick these beans. Well, wait just a minute and see what he's going to do now. Let's see what he's going to do.
tell about was it her grandmother that rode a horse, and she was like a midwife?
Yeah,
or-
she was a midwife. She delivered all the babies around in Butler County.
What was her name?
Mary Catherine.
Hi, that's Granny's sister's name.
Mary
Yeah.
Catherine. She rode side saddle. She had a side saddle that she put on her horse, and they would come and beat on her door way in the night, and they say, somebody would say, my wife's having her baby. Can you come? And she'd say, yeah, let me get dressed. And she'd put her clothes on, get her hat and put it on, and she'd climb on that horse. She'd tell one of the boys to go to the barn and saddle that horse up. She had a side saddle that she wore. She had big long dresses that swept the ground. And she'd get up on that side saddle and take off to their house. They'd be 3 or 4 miles over there. Sometimes she'd have to cross a creek or a river to get there. She'd go deliver that baby, then she'd come home and cook her breakfast for her kids.
Alright, let's see.
Tell us that ghost story where the little girl was like a ghost and the truck goes by and he stopped at the house and the girl was gone.
Oh, that was on TV.
Oh yeah, we on
Okay, Mom, help us out.
Still
We're
touch.
having trouble thinking of other stories.
Tell that one Papa told you about the lady with the coins. He was tossing up the
That was Uncle
coins.
Bob told me that one.
Oh, Uncle Bob told you that. Tell that one.
Yeah, I was standing out there with him and I knocked, and she'd had 2 strokes. And
How old were you?
it's right after me and your dad got married, and Uncle Bob come and wanted me to go out there and help them out, you know. They live way out in the country. Go way out to Richardsville Road and turn off on another road out there. It was way out there. And Aunt Augie was real sick, and she died while she lived there. But I left and come back to Bowling Green. And after I left, my granddad and Robert went out there to stay, and she died while they was out there. But she didn't know who I was. She didn't recognize me because she'd had those strokes, you know, and she was in real bad shape. So Uncle Bob would sit up at night, and he would tell me stories about things that happened when he was young. And he told me about this story about going. He said his mom, he called her mom. So she called him and told him. She gave him $1, and she told him to go down to the store at. What's the name of that place down there in Butler County, where he was raised? It was a store down there. Can't think of it. Said that for her, he would go there and get her some coffee and some sugar and 2 or 3 things. And he started down this road, and it wasn't blacktopped. And it had it hadn't rained for a long time, and it was dust about that deep on the road. And underneath it was really hard, the road was. And he said he had a silver dollar, it's about that very round. And he took that silver dollar and he would slide it down through there, and where the dust come up, he'd watch where the dust come up, and then he'd go pick the silver dollar up. And then he'd do it again. And so he'd watch for the dust to come up, and he'd go pick it up again. Because he didn't want to lose it, because his mom was ready to quit. So he did that, and when he got down to a big tree, and the road went this way and this way. So he had to go this way to the store. And this big old oak tree was there. It was a huge tree. And this old woman came out from behind it. And she had a red bandana around her head. He said she was really ugly. And he said, how do? Said he was afraid of her. And she said, how do? He said, nice day. She said, yes, nice day. And he said it's all he could do to keep from running, because he was so scared of her. And he got down to the store, and he went in and got his stuff, and he come out. There was a great big bunch of young boys standing out there on the store. And he told them, he said, I saw this old woman up there come out from behind that oak tree up there. And he described how she looked. And they said, well, he called some boy's name and said, that's his mother. Said, she's been dead for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Tell them about Papa seeing that burnt place in the grass and him being real scared of that. Remember that?
Yeah. My dad used to go, he used to walk he lived 5 miles out of Cave City, down below a place called Crossroads. And he would go to Cave City on Saturday night. He'd work all the week and plow the backer. And he would feed all the animals and put hay out for them and everything. And on Saturday night, he'd go to town. And he'd spend his money. He'd go to a movie. He'd play some pool. And about 12 o'clock, he'd start home. And he had to walk 5 miles. And he would go down past Paula, where Paula lives now. And there was a little road that come out like this, and he had to go right around by the cemetery where the dead people was buried.
That's another scary story.
Yeah, and then he had to go way down this other road to Crossroads, and then on down below Crossroads is where he lived. About 5 miles. He had to walk. He didn't have no car. So he would walk, and he got down to a little place, and there was a big old cedar tree there on the side of the road. It's still there today. I'd show it to you. When we go down there sometime, I'll show it to you. And Daddy said there was a great big long black thing under that cedar tree, and he thought it was a coffin. He said it's what he thought it was, and said his heart started beating real fast. And he said he struck his match. He had some matches in his pocket, and he struck a match. And somebody had thrown the match down and burned off a great big long place, and it had turned black there. And the moon wasn't shining or nothing. So it just looked like a big black coffin sitting there on that tree. And when he struck that match, it was just a burnt place where it burnt there. Great big place. He said a lot of people would have took off running, but he didn't. He seen when it was. Then he went on home. He said he had his pistol with him though. He carried a big pistol and he had a shoulder holster that he put his pistol down in and carried it. And if somebody run out at him or something, like he had his gun with him.
Was he there that day that man got shot at the store? Tell about that.
He was up at Bear Wallow. It's a place called Bear Wallow. He said the reason they called it that, the bears used to wallow around there. In the ground, they would lay down and waller. So they named this place Bear Wallow. I can show you where that's at too. I'll take you sometime to show you where it's at. We go to Paulus. I'll take you over to show where it's at. And he went down to this store at Bear Wallow. And it was on a Saturday afternoon, and he said he was standing on the porch. And a guy drove up, and Daddy said he drank all these bottles of flavoring that had alcohol in it, cake flavoring, and it said it made him crazy, made him mean. And his name was Goodhue. He said, I'm gonna kill me some so-and-so today. That's what I'm gonna do. And Daddy was standing there on the porch, and he said, well, I hope it ain't me. He just said it to himself, you know. He didn't say it out loud. He said, I hope it ain't me, because he had his gun right down that house. Right under his jacket. Had his jacket up over it. And there was a guy come out of the store, and he was a black man. And this guy started a fuss with him. And that black guy said, I'm not saying nothing to you. Said, I don't want to fuss. Said, I'm just going home. And he pulled out his gun and shot that man right on the store porch.
Good grief.
And the man said, I wished I had a gun. And Daddy said, I wanted to take my gun out and just throw it to him. But he said, I didn't. And he said, this Goodhue guy, a car come by. And back then, they had fenders out on the cars. They called them running boards. They was about that wide. And he jumped on a car, put his hand up in the side of the door, and jumped up on that running board, and the guy carried him on down the road, Mr. Black. Took him away from there, and the man died. The black man died. See, he had it in his heart he was going to kill somebody. He said it. And he did. He killed a black man, and he wasn't doing nothing to him. And Daddy saw it.
And he didn't get
And
caught or anything.
no, he got away.
The world these days.
Those days.
Those days.
The guy, the black man shot the white guy.
No, the white guy shot the black guy.
Okay. What happened to the car? Was the man we driving?
There's a man come by in a car, and this Goodhue guy run out there, jumped off the porch and jumped up on the running board of the car.
The white man that had just shot the black man he
And he
caught
got
the
away.
car and ran away with the car. Somebody,
He rode the other man.
That was
No,
when
the other man was
when Papa
driving.
was a young man.
You weren't married to him then?
I wasn't even born. He was just a young man. He had never met my mother.
Oh, I thought you were talking about your husband.
No, her grandpa.
Grandpa George. We called him Papa. Papa, actually. Papa and Granny. And then tell about,
My daddy met my mother at church.
there you go.
They was at a tent meeting, and my daddy used to grab a freight train. He would jump on a freight train at Cave City and ride the Bowling Green on it in a boxcar. And he went down to this tent meeting one night, and my mother was there, and she has pretty curly black hair. And he loved black-headed women. And she had on a pretty pink dress, and she had some beads around her neck, real pretty beads. Her mother's half-brother owned a drugstore in Cincinnati, Ohio. And he always sent Mama all kinds of trinkets from the drugstore. And when I was a little girl, she had a round basket about this big around with a top on it. And she had beads of all colors in there. Green, white, orange color, red, all different shapes of beads was in, strings of beads was in there. And she had little silver compacts with mirrors in it, you know, where he set her. Uncle Will Markham was his name. And he sent her everything from that drugstore that he owned.
Who was this? Her uncle?
Grandma's half brother. And he always sent her everything. And she had that basket all the way full of stuff. I don't know whatever happened to it, but it would be worth something now if we had it. And she had all kinds of stuff. But she wore a lot of beads back then. And there was a boy there that wanted to date with her, so he went up and talked to her, and she wouldn't say nothing to him. And so he grabbed that string of beads and he pulled on them real hard and broke them. And the beads went all over the grass. They was in a tent revival. And my daddy saw it. And he went over there. And he said, "Has this guy bothered you?" And that guy took off. And my daddy dated my mama for 2 years, and then they got married. That's how they met.
Did he ever kiss that guy and beat him up?
Now they was at church.
Oh, yeah.
Tell how many kids Pop and Granny had and what their names were. How many Granny lost.
They had 7 children. Had me,
Name,
Larry,
Larry, name your full name.
Roy
Larry's full
Eugene,
name.
Ernie Ray, Anna Laura, and Dorothy Louise, and Janice Sharon.
Say your Larry's full name. Go back.
Mary Virginia, and James Larry.
Is James Larry?
He was named after my grandfather. His name was James Alfonso. That was Mama's daddy.
Do you know any farther back than that? Like your great-grandmother or?
I saw Granddad's mama and daddy's pictures. Uncle Bob had them when I stayed out there with him, and he had them up in big frames on the wall. They were big old frames, pictures. And he had both of them right together. His name was James Rubin, and her name was Mary Catherine.
The one in the midwife?
Cathriene, Catherine. The way she spelled it.
She was the midwife, right?
And he wrote, I think he wrote a grocery store at one time.
Tell how he died.
I don't know how he died.
What about,
I know that when she died, an old doctor at Morgantown was her doctor, and he told Granddad that he couldn't, since she had too much wrong with her, and when he gave her one medicine it would go against this, when he gave her another medicine it would go against that, so he was going to lose her. And he said he thought he'd just take his saddlebags and throw them in the river. They had a big muddy river there and a little muddy river. They called it Muddy River. And he said he thought he'd just take his saddlebags. That's why they carried his doctor's stuff in back then, was his saddlebags, because he rode a horse. And she died.
tell how Granny's dad died.
He burned up in a house.
And Lizzie did too, Papa's mother.
Yeah, she burned up in a house.
His house caught fire and he couldn't see, right, Mom?
Yeah, he was blind. And he was crippled. And there was 2 little boys over there with him. One of them was my cousin.
He couldn't
And I
walk.
think they might have set the house afire with them. Granddad was smoking, and he had a pipe, and he probably dropped some of the fire out of the chair he was sitting in. And they said they tried to get him to come out, and he wouldn't. He said, he didn't believe that the chair was on fire. And they said, we're not going to stay in here and burn up. We're going out. You better come with us. And he wouldn't go, so they left him in there.
Who was that was there?
Michael Carroll. Joanne.
What year was that?
The year that Vicky was born, 55. Vicky was born in August, and Granddad, she was just a tiny baby. I took him over there and he held her. He couldn't see her, but he rubbed his hands over her face and her eyes. He said, she sure is a pretty little old thing. He was blind, he couldn't see. And he took Debbie up and he rubbed his hands over her hair and he felt over her face and he said, she's pretty too. That was his two great grandchildren.
When did he get blind?
He started going blind when Jan was a baby. He started losing his sight.
Also start pretty early then, didn't he?
I was about 17 when he started going blind.
What did he do? If he was crippled when you were a baby, then how did he run and knock on that guy's door to get
Well, back then he was younger and he could walk with a cane, just a cane. And then he got to where he had to have a crutch and a cane because he got older. And then he started going blind. And he got to where he couldn't hardly get around. His legs got real
And
weak
they didn't have wheelchairs.
and trembling. He didn't have one. He didn't have one.
And you're cut.